Hi witches! I wanted to do another episode of Learning to Love Your Body as Witch, and this time I'm going to focus on movement, including limited physical movement. So if you have a disability or an illness that limits your physical movement. We witches are creatures of feeling. We are sensual. We know that one of the easiest ways of raising energy or connecting to spirit is to move. To stamp, to dance, to walk the spiral, to walk the compass, to rock, to roll or fixate our eyes, to tip our heads, to tap our fingers, to march around the hills and rocks, to swim, to find and lose ourselves in sex, to find and lose ourselves in frenzy. For some of us, this comes easily. It is a natural thing to be active from the moment we wake up to the moment we sleep. And for others, it's harder. So firstly, I'll deal with the bigger movements, the upright movements, but then I'll move on to movements possible if you can't do those. It's often unmentioned that you can witch sitting in a wheelchair or work on movement lying in a bed, particularly in the area of witchcraft that I'm in, more so I feel, because it's traditional witchcraft, so there's, it's all about connecting with the land in many ways, or at least the branch that I'm interested and work in is. But so many of us do witch sitting in a wheelchair or work on movement lying in a bed, and so many of us at times will need to do that due to injury or illness or anything like that, really. Perhaps even pregnancies can sometimes cause you to have to stay in bed for a long time. So I wanted to touch on this too. I will post the time, so you can skip to that bit if you don't want to hear about the upright physical movements. So something modern life, in my opinion, is in danger of destroying is our movement. And as we witches are rebels, we must rebel against that. In constant movement, we find stillness. In the static world of now, we find movement. We must work it into our daily routine, in both life and in our craft. Often there's a disconnect between us as the person going about their daily life and us as a witch. Now, I believe that it's really important to interweave those two things fully. And I will do another video on ways that you can do that sort of as an everyday thing. However, one important factor in the habit of separating daily life and witchcraft is that our bodies do not recognise the split. They cannot perform wonderful, athletic, spiritual dances if they spend all day sat down in an office and go home to sit and then sleep. There are always exceptions to that rule, and the amazing energy raised in ritual can give you extra oomph, there's no doubt about that. However, you will always perform better if you're in tune with your body and your body is strong and healthy, as will your spirit, This is about you. It's about you being the best witch you can be and not comparing yourself to other people. So if Mildred manages to eat junk food and yet still be, someone who can sit around and then jump up and suddenly perform amazing athletic feats, Mildred isn't you. And, there's no point comparing yourself because she's not on your journey. You are. Our bodies were made to move. They cannot function properly without movement. That's a very complex topic, so I won't go deeply into that, but our bodily systems cannot function properly without movement. We are essentially made of water, and I found I really connect to the image of water that lies still going stagnant, and when our bodies are still, they are stagnant. Our power can stagnate. It's just sitting around. And our love for our bodies has become stagnant as well if we're just sitting around. We cannot truly love something if we're not trying to fulfill its basic needs. Yes, we are spiritual beings. We have great mental capacity, but we're in physical form, and that in itself is amazing. We are one whole while we are here on this earth, and working as a whole, as a body, mind, and spirit in union, can only be fulfilling in our craft. Body and spirit are split too often. People can find relief in this idea of disconnect to the body, and that's not healthy. They can find relief in the spirit side, but they're not just spirit. They are flesh and blood and bone too. Movement is the reconciling of the spirit and body in one voice. It's synergy. To love our bodies truly, we must love them all the time, no matter what we're doing. Now, that's something I really struggle with, and I think many of us do. And I also think, modern life can be a big distraction with that. However, part of loving them all the time is to find ways to move in daily life and not just in ritual. Adding daily movement can teach you about your body. It can teach you about its reactions and the things it's good at and not so good at. You can learn its mysteries, and that can then be applied to your craft. Start with the basics, add them in. There are plenty of videos of 10-minute workouts, active yoga sessions, or perhaps go for a walk or a run, play a ball game, swim in a pool, or even start wild swimming in rivers and lakes and the sea. Dance on your own in your living room, or, go out and dance in your garden. Start horse riding. Even gardening can be more active than sitting. You're up and you're moving and you're pulling and digging. Definitely more active than just sitting and typing. And, there will always be people who feel that they do not have the time, or at least the time and energy together, to add to their daily or weekly routines. And really, the best solution is to weave the movement in. When I worked at a shop, I did subtle ballet exercises at my till when the shop was quiet and I was having to wait for customers to appear. Yes, my colleagues probably thought I was bonkers, but I am, so, At school, I got up early to go running before school, and now I fit cardio, ballet, sometimes yoga and physio into my day around studying, housewifing, and general mummy tasks because I have more time. But the most important thing is interweaving those things into my everyday. I dance while I tidy or clean. I practice controlled movement as I converse. I do a ballet exercise while I wait for the saucepan to come to the boil. Now, that sounds quite active, but this movement doesn't come naturally to me. Swimming would be the only exception to that. When I'm near water, I desperately just want to jump in and swim. But apart from that, I'm a thinker, really. A thinker, a writer, a talker. So I have to work to do these things. I have to make a conscious decision to do it. And then I have to act on that conscious decision. But after a while, added movement does become more routine. And importantly, as witch, I apply these things to my craft. I can pray through dance. I can raise energy. I can use the areas of my body good at controlled movement for manipulating energy. I can meditate while swimming and come to deep revelations while doing that. I can work on the bits I know I'm really rubbish at. And, having been unwell, I can see the differences and improvements in my body dramatically, and therefore the improvements in the areas of the craft that I relate these to. I can embody my own voice. Physical non-verbal communication is a huge part of the way we interact. We perceive through physical. We perceive physically. Whether our gods are deities or the earth itself, or simply ourselves and the people around us, the voice they speak with is embodied. There is a physical presence, even to the spiritual, an energy that makes us move, even rides us and takes over our whole body. Throughout history and today, we can find examples of people using movement for trance, and some of us will be using it ourselves. If you're not, then I urge you to try it. Just give it a go and see what works for you. But if you move very little in daily life, in everyday life, you won't be able to find or understand the best way there is for you, because you aren't aware of the way your body works so much. Now, although not everyone follows the witch's pyramid, I think it can be a really useful guideline, and most people know what I'm talking about. To know, to dare, to will, and to keep silent, the four corners of the witch's pyramid. Now, I find that to dare is often forgotten. We do not dare to act, not with our bodies. It is our bodies that make us human. We have a body, and therefore we're not purely spirit. We have a human body, and therefore we are not animal. Other animals. We are animals, but we're not other species of animal. It's our bodies that connect us to the earth. We hear again and again to find an activity that we love and do it. But are we daring to act upon that? Do we dare take part? If you don't know which activity you love, then dare to try them out. I definitely back up finding an activity you enjoy. But I do also think, and my son has to put up with me saying this constantly, that sometimes we just have to do what we don't want to do because it's good for us. And if we don't, then we accept the repercussions. We don't reach the highest potential for our bodies, for our spirits, for our craft as witches. You don't like exercise. Okay, work out your best approach to it. What do you like? Do you like achieving goals? What drives you? Do you like interacting with people? Do you like seeing beautiful scenery? Do you crave profound and exciting new experiences? Do you like discovering new places? Do you like listening to musical stories? Do you desire the deepest knowledge of yourself? Merge whatever it is that you desire with the exercise, the activity. Discover new places through walking, or go actual rock face climbing if you need that kind of exciting on edge experience. Really look out there, because there is activity for everybody. Of course there is. This is about acknowledging your own power as witch. Now, I've mentioned before that I have a chronic nerve condition. It's nerve damage, really. I have other chronic conditions as well, but my nerve condition can and has held me back from movement. I do not have the luxury anymore of just setting out across the moors, though that is something that I'm working towards and, progressing towards. For a time, I was stuck being very stationary, only able to go out in a wheelchair. Now, obviously, it's not to say I didn't move at all, because everyone moves a bit. And also, there was a period of time where I could walk around at home with no aids, or with, using furniture and things to aid me. But there was a long period of time where I was stuck in bed and really could barely get up to go to the toilet. Previous to that, I'd been in hospital, stuck in a bed, and not needed to get up to go to the toilet at all. Now, obviously, because I'm not saying that it wasn't that I didn't move, it's just that it's harder for me to move, or it was harder for me to move in the way I wanted, and it still is. But it's better than the point I was stuck in bed for a long period. And during that period, I did a lot of thinking and learning and trance work. I barely saw anybody, so I was very limited with my human contact. And I had several revelations. My feeling about it is that that is my witch's cradle. You know, that was my witch's cradle. In many ways, this is only important to my personal journey, but I did want to share it here because I just feel that it is something less mentioned in the community, and there can be a lot of guilt involved when you can't get out of bed, when you can't just decide to wander the hills in search of spirits or pop into your garden. You know, I do want to include mental health in this as well, because obviously there can be times for people where they struggle to get out of bed, and I think that it's just worth mentioning that I'm not just limiting this to physical, you know, physical causes of your limitations with movement. So things you can do, you can work on communicating with spirits, with knowing yourself. You may be able to do a lot of reading, for example, and come to clearer conclusions about what you yourself think. You can do dream work, perhaps create and imbibe talismans, breath work, make puppets. There are lots of things you can do outside of the movement realm. Now, that all depends on your body, of course. I didn't always have the energy, well, I didn't often have the energy available to create or even to read. And there was my enforced witch's cradle. But then, what use is it to know and not to dare? So I came to know more, and so I needed to dare more. What I'm really saying is, if you're in that position, don't give up witching. Give up the guilt, because this is your personal journey. With witchcraft, it absolutely is. Your magic is unique to you, and you need to be proud of that. And here's where the movement comes in as well, because you can focus on what you can do. Work on the small movements, because sometimes small movements can be just as powerful. And this can be helpful for people who do have the ability to do the bigger upright movements too. You know, if you're stuck in your bed, you don't have to be stuck in your craft. There are avenues you can explore. At the moment, for example, just, you know, something that came to mind is that there's a newer therapy that's had success in helping people reprocess trauma and difficult thought patterns, including addiction. It's been around for longer than people think. I know that I've seen documentation about it from, I think it was 96, so, and it would have been around for a lot longer than that. But it's recently come up quite a bit in psychological circles, and, you know, mental health circles. But some of you may have heard of it. It's called eye movement desensitizing and reprocessing therapy, or EMDR. It uses things like side-to-side eye movements, alternating hand taps during talking therapy to help the mind process the memories differently. It integrates lots of different approaches, and some would argue it's more the integration of different approaches that's successful rather than the movement. One aim is to help to work through unpleasant physical sensations, and a key part of it is free association. It's been suggested, here's where the witchcraft is coming, that it replicates the way we work through our memories in our dreams. Of course, obviously, it's way more complex than that. I won't go into that anymore because it's such a huge and complicated subject. However, I do think it demonstrates well how small movements can make a big difference. The importance of dream work, of free association, allowing the mind to clear in order to connect to spirit is so important in witchcraft. And the small movements can not only help us achieve this state, but also help us to work through things while in it. So feel every part of the body you can move and work with that part of the body. Something that gets forgotten in goes unspoken at the beginning of witchcraft journeys, so for new witches, is, yeah, learning from others can really help, and learning the basics is really important in lots of ways and can get missed in the excitement quite frequently. But you are free to explore your own experience of the body in witchcraft. You're free to pioneer it. And, you know, that is probably the most important thing, that your experience belongs to you and you're working on what you can. So I'm going to end there, guys, but it was really great talking to you, and I will be back soon with more videos. Let me know if you would like a particular kind of aspect of loving your body as a witch. And yeah, many blessings to you all.